Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Friday morning. We start our show with an absolute gong show of a game yesterday on the north side of Fargo between the Jackrabbits and the Bison. Tie game at 7 in the top of the 6th when Amanda Vercante hits a grand slam for South Dakota State. Jackrabbits go up 11-7. Bison rally. It's 11-10. They're down to their last strike. Jessica Delatorre with a base hit off a glove. That scores the tying run. Amai Honta scores. We're tied at 11. We go to the 8th. Akayla Bernard, opposite field power for a home run. Jackrabbits go back in front at 12-11. Bottom of the 8th, Bison need a run. Zoe King laces one down the left field line. That's an RBI double. Taylon Warren will score. The Bison have tied the game at 12. They put 2 runners on. Amai Honta up at the plate. Little suicide squeeze. The game-winning run comes in to score. The Bison come all the way back and win it 13-12. That was the first time they led all game. How about that, to pull out the squeeze to win it? And with that, the Bison clinch the 3 seed in the Summit League tournament next week in Minneapolis. Omaha and St. Thomas will be the 1 and the 2. And with that, we say good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hot Mic here on a Friday morning, the first day of May. Happy May Day to everybody out there that celebrates as we wrap up the week in style with an absolute wild one. Game 2 of that set coming up later today. You'll see it right here on WDAY Extra at 3 o'clock today. It's going to be a beautiful day for both softball and baseball. We got a little double dip today with on the north side of town. We're looking forward to that. We'll tell you all about that later on in our program today. Caught the end of that, and that was the catapult to just an absolute wild sports viewing night. If you went and were in attendance last night, more power to you, because that was quite the experience last night just watching at home. It felt palpable through the television set, whether you were watching what happened at Grand Casino Arena in St. Paul, where you're watching what happened at Target Center. I can't say what happened at Target Field, with all apologies to our guy Cory Provus, who will join us later on. It did not have the same vibe of what was going on at the Twins game last night. But, as I said last night when the Wolves game ended, what was the percentage of fans that thought both would win? It had to be under 5%. Both lose, certainly high. I would have to imagine at least over 60%. But both win? Nah, I'd take the under-over at about 5, and I'd hammer the under on that because I didn't think anybody thought both. One, sure, because the Wild were playing well, and they were back home. The Timberwolves, though, we already knew no Anthony Edwards. We already knew no Dante DiVincenzo. Then, yesterday, as the day goes on, the Wolves are put out status reports, and that's totally for gambling purposes, but sometimes they have information in it. And as the day goes on, the first report comes out that Ayo Dosunmu is on it and is questionable with calf soreness. And this is after he scored 43 in the Game 4 win on Saturday. So, all right, well, that's troubling. And Kyle Anderson gets added to it. Slow-mo's on there. He's sick. So, and then another report comes out at 5. Anderson's out. Then another comes out at 6 that DeSumo's out. So the Wolves are down to 8 guys that can play last night. Denver's coming in after they played probably their best game of the series on Monday night in Game 5. That was the backdrop for last night in Game 6, where the Nuggets know, hey, if we get this, we got Game 7 back in our building Saturday night. The Wolves were all wearing Dante DiVincenzo jerseys. He was back on the scooter. Wolves got a quick start. Naz Reid driving an and one, puts Minnesota up by 6. Early second quarter, Mike Conley starting last night. Naz, putback effort is good. Dante vibing on the bench, likes that. Wolves are up 2. Later in the second, Jaden McDaniels became a superstar last night. For those that didn't know him outside of the trash talk, so did Terrence Shannon Jr. Holy cow, the hammer. He had to start last night because DeSumo couldn't play. More on him in a moment. How about Rudy? The rejection on Jokic. All series long, Gobert was sensational on the Joker. The Nuggets, though, got their act together in the third. Jokic was unbelievable in this quarter. Had 17 alone in the third. Nuggets, again, were playing without Aaron Gordon out with his own calf injury. It's a 2-point Minnesota lead. Jokic, I mean, what do you do there? That's perfect defense that Gobert played. We're tied at 67. Now tied at 69 in the third. This, again, the Jaden McDaniels show. He was not going to be stopped last night. The drive and an and one. Every time that he touched the ball, the crowd went crazy. He played 45 minutes last night. The Wolves, like I mentioned, they can only play 8 guys. Another stop and pop there. Dante's loving it. Crowd's loving it. Wolves took a 4-point lead to the fourth. McDaniels drive. Again, no resistance at the basket. The Wolves scored 82 points in the paint last night. Here, little feistiness from Jalen Clark and Jokic with a takedown. It got nasty there for a minute. Double techs were awarded at that moment. Seemed to give the Nuggets a little bit of burst. It's a 1-point game. Again, Rudy passing was phenomenal last night. Hits Naz in the corner. Wolves are up 4 with under 8 minutes to go. Now under 6 to go. It's a 5-point lead. Again, another pass from Gobert. Shannon hits the corner 3. Everybody loving it. It's a 6-point Wolves lead. Another McDaniels and one on the drive. Minnesota goes up 8 with 5.5 minutes to go. He scored 32 last night on 13 of 25 from the field. 3-point game, 2 minutes to go. Shannon Jr. drives again. A-Rod loves it. Wolves are up 6. Minute to go. This the dagger. McDaniels, and he knew it when he drained it. Put Minnesota up by 7. The Timberwolves eliminate the Denver Nuggets 110-98 on an all-time performance with 8 guys. They beat Denver 4-2 to knock them out. McDaniels didn't have 1 turnover. Rudy was 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Gobert had 13 rebounds, 10 points, 8 assists. I tweeted at one point that Rudy really have 7 assists in the game. He had 8. Jokic had a quiet 28. He was dominated by Rudy Gobert and the Wolves defense. Jaden McDaniels talked the talk, and the Wolves back it up. And for the 3rd year in a row, Minnesota is moving on to the conference semifinals. And for the 2nd time in 3 years, they have eliminated the Denver Nuggets.
I mean, Jaden McDaniels was just – he talked all series, and he backed it up all series. And that's called legitimate tough. And he not only led us tonight scoring-wise, but Murray was 4 for 17, and I don't think he scored on Jaden the whole game. So that's what you want. We've learned with TJ is like he's he's got to have the ball in his hands. It was, silly me. We played him out of the corner most of the season, but he's way better with the ball in his hands at the top of the floor. Our guys, they took it personal. I mean, Denver had the chance to pick who they wanted to play coming down the stretch, and they chose us. And we use that as a motivation all the way through preparation and through the series. They chose us. They didn't have to choose us. They chose us, and our guys were up for the challenge of that.
I thought I'd be part of that. More on that in a second. So, here are the updated bracket now in the Western Conference. We have one spot remaining in the West Final Four. OKC is sitting there waiting for the Rockets-Lakers winner. Game 6 of that series is tonight in Houston. Remember, the Lakers went up 3-0. Houston has won games 4 and 5. No Kevin Durant tonight, so we'll see what happens there. And now the Timberwolves will get the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle. I mean, San Antonio is legit. They're the one team I think everybody thinks that can beat the Thunder. And here come the banged-up Wolves without Anthony Edwards. We don't know when he will be back. I just got an email here from the Timberwolves saying that the series will start on Monday in San Antonio. Games 3 and 4 will be in Target Center in Minneapolis next Friday, May the 8th, and then Game 4 is next Sunday, May the 10th. So we're playing every other day. After the first round takes about 3 weeks, then they motor through this thing. Meanwhile, in the Eastern Conference, the New York Knicks won by $1 billion last night over the Hawks. They literally were up by 60 points at one point. So the Knicks are the only team in the East through. Boston and Philadelphia are going to a Game 7. That will be tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the other series are playing Game 6s tonight. Magic trying to eliminate the number 1 seed in the Pistons, and the Cavs trying to eliminate the Raptors tonight north of the border. Very well, we could see 3 more Game 7s here, potentially all that coming down on Sunday. Now, back to what Chris Finch said there. And remember, we talked about this the day the regular season ended, that night Denver played San Antonio, the final night of the regular season. And Denver decided to go for it, right? Because the Spurs weren't playing any of their guys. The Wolves are already locked into the 6, remember? And there was still consternation if the Nuggets would have lost and the Lakers won, then how it would have gone is the Nuggets would have dropped to the 4 and the Lakers would have moved up and they would have played in the 3 spot against the Wolves. Instead, Denver decided to, and you heard Finch say, they wanted us. They went for it. They won that last game against San Antonio, so they got the 3 because of the tiebreaker that they had with the Lakers. And it ends up coming back to bite them. There's one guy that we did not feature in those highlights. That's Jamal Murray. And you heard what Finch said, that McDaniels completely locked him down in a way that Jamal Murray was completely ineffective in that series. So now the Wolves, I saw this stat as well, they have won more playoff games over the last 3 years than they had combined as a franchise from 1989 to 2023. Again, this is the best years of this team, and now they have to somehow face Wembanyama. And if you basketball fans that haven't seen him play, I encourage you to get on the old YouTube and find some clips because the guy is a menace. He's a unicorn. He's, I think, my favorite player to watch right now. Game 1 will be Monday night in San Antonio. We don't know the time or the network. That'll all be determined after all the other series wrap up, whether that's tonight or tomorrow to end the first round. Now, that being said, the Minnesota Wild are still playing as well, because for the first time in the winter professional history of each of those franchises, the Wild and the Wolves both won a playoff series in the same year. Game 6 last night in St. Paul. Minnesota started fast. This is why they got Quinn Hughes. That's why they gave up the farm for him. This is a fabulous goal. Snipes that one home. It's a 1-0 Wild lead. The Stars tie it at 1 in the second. Then they take the lead on this goal from Maverick Bourque. Makes it a 2-1 Dallas lead late in the second period. Giving up goals late in periods is huge in hockey. Vladimir Tarasenko from his knees. First goal of the postseason. You could tell he wanted that one. Tied up at 2. Jesper Wallstedt was great in this series. Makes a huge save there in a tie game at 2, halfway through the third. Just a minute after that, watch Hughes banks it off a Stars skate and in. You need your best players to play their best in the biggest moments. This is pure luck, but you know what? You don't apologize. Wild lead at 3-2. Dallas has pulled its goaltender. Matt Boldy, who else would come on to the loose puck? He buries the empty netter. He would score 2 empty net goals for the Minnesota Wild. The party was underway in St. Paul last night for a franchise that has not made it out of the first round in 11 years. That drought is over. The Wild win it 5-2. Handshakes all around. Dallas is going home. And the Wild are moving on. It was 12 years to the date when they beat Colorado in Game 7 on the road. Finally, they're over the hump. Boldy with 2 goals. Wallstedt, 21 saves in net. They finally exercised the first-round demons, and they are moving on in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Just trying your best. I mean, obviously we had a great opportunity tonight to close them out in Game 6. I mean, if it went the other way tonight, it is what it is, and still have the chance for Game 7. But I just think their backs are up against the wall, and you wanted to close it out. So I think all of our guys kind of had that mindset, and that's all I was thinking.
We have a lot of older guys that have been through it, that have won, and have had success. I think that's one thing, but I think you learn so much throughout those other playoff series. Not that I'm old, but I feel like I was young during those and didn't know what to expect or what the expectation was and stuff. So I think it was just a group of guys that are ready to take that step. Between me and Kirill and Jared, Marcus, Broads, Eki, all these guys, like, you learn and you learn the ways that you need to play in order to make that jump. And I think from Game 1, that was the mindset that we weren't going to let that happen again.
You could hear the celebration going on around the press conference there last night. So it is on to the next round, and lo and behold, the Colorado Avalanche away. We've known this for a while, that this was going to be the pathway that whoever was going to take was going to have to go through Dallas and was going to have to go through Colorado. The Avalanche have been sitting home for almost a week after beating the Kings in the first round. I believe Colorado will have 8 total days off before this series will begin. We don't know yet. I believe that's going to start Monday as well in Denver. I'd like to space this out because having them both on the same night is a lot. But they are moving on. Last night, Anaheim eliminated Edmonton. So for the first time in 4 years, the Stanley Cup Final will not feature either the Florida Panthers or the Edmonton Oilers. They have been there each of the last 3 years, one of those two teams. The Ducks eliminate Connor McDavid and the Oilers, so they'll await the winner of Vegas and Utah. That Game 6 comes up tonight. Carolina and Philadelphia will start tomorrow night. That game will be on WDAY. And then the Sabres and the Bruins playing tonight. See if Buffalo can move on there. They lead that series 3-2, and the Canadiens leading the Lightning 3-2 in their series. What do you got for us here? Wallstedt, the only Swedish rookie goaltender with a playoff victory in NHL history, and now the only Swedish rookie tender with a series victory. Well, there you go. He's been pretty darn good. Not even Henrik Lundqvist could do that. Been championing him to be the guy, and he has certainly been that for Minnesota. So, emotional roller coaster last night. The Stars go up 2-1. There was a point when the Nuggets, and I watched more of the basketball game than I did the hockey game last night. Once I saw that Minnesota went up 3-2, I was keeping an eye on it. But once Jokic got going in the third quarter, just nerves were like, they're going to lose. He's going to dominate. But they just kept playing hard, and they kept getting to the basket, and that was fun. That's what winning is like, apparently, for those out there that enjoy it, because it has not happened for both of these franchises at the same time. So there are more playoffs to come, at least 2 more weeks for Wild fans and Wolves fans. You get 2 more weeks of postseason heading into May now. If you're playing in May, you had a heck of a year. Wow, the Wolves are used to it. The Wild, this is a new experience for them. We got a packed show coming up for you here today to wrap up our week in style, to send us out into the first weekend of May. Our guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. As always, coming up, it is Friday at 9:35. Cory Provus will join us after the Twins opened up a weekend set with a victory over Toronto. They beat Kevin Gossman again. We'll chat with Cory about the weekend set with the Blue Jays and some other topics going around the Twins, including when we may see some of their top prospects coming up. That's at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, we'll start our second hour with some Bison football chatter. You read about it earlier this week. You'll meet Bryce Vigness from Papillion, Nebraska, just outside of Omaha, the latest Bison football commit, offensive lineman that turned down Kansas State, that turned down Iowa State, that turned down Tulsa and Pitt and a bunch of other schools to commit to NDSU. He'll join us at 10. And at 10:35, we'll end our week by heading out west for another Meeting the Mountain West segment. Chris Murray will join us from Nevada Sports Net. Covers everything with the Wolfpack and UNLV, specifically, though, Nevada, to give us the update on Jeff Choate, Nevada football, and Chris's thoughts. He's covered the Mountain West for a long, long time, and how North Dakota State will fit in year one. I thought that was a nice way to wrap up our week coming up at 10:35. So, a lot to get to here this morning. We're glad you're joining us. When we come back, on top of everything else that happened last night, could the NFL draft be coming to the Twin Cities? It sure sounds like it. Hot Mike is back after this. Welcome back, everybody. NFL draft wrapped up on Saturday. That Vikings helmet behind me may also have some significance as well, because report out of Sports Business Journal yesterday says that apparently the 2028 NFL draft is a done deal in terms of location, and it's coming apparently to U.S. Bank Stadium in the Twin Cities, to the Vikings in Minneapolis to host the game. Says it's will be signed off at the NFL owners meetings May 19th through the 20th in Orlando, that Minnesota's favored to win it. They like to take this around to places that can't really host Super Bowls. Pittsburgh being one. Washington, D.C. is going to get it next year. Detroit had it. Green Bay's had it. They're not getting the Super Bowl, but the NFL's thought process is, well, if we can't bring the biggest game there, what else can we take? And the draft is next up. Numerous sources familiar with the NFL's thinking, this is from Sports Business Journal's report, consider Minneapolis-St. Paul a clear favorite to win hosting rights to the 2028 NFL Draft. The NFL's events committee is scheduled to meet next week to discuss the matter, with an ownership vote expected at their May 19th meeting in Orlando. In March, we reported on this as well. The Vikings announced a bid with a plan that would make U.S. Bank Stadium the center of the draft weekend, with events also in St. Paul, the Mall of America, and the Viking Lakes development around the team's Eagan headquarters. While NFL officials believe the modern draft is best suited for cities without Super Bowl aspirations, and Minneapolis has hosted 2 Super Bowls before, nobody expects a third in the foreseeable future. I can tell you why. There was a blizzard the night before the game. I was there. It was bad. It was hard to get around. Sources said it's possible the NFL looks to award 2 drafts at the same time or in relatively short order. If that happens, some sources said Cincinnati has the inside track for 2029, but there is less clarity around whether the NFL is prepared to do that now. Now, just off the top of my head, and for those that have been to U.S. Bank Stadium, that plaza area around U.S. Bank Stadium is fine. There's not a tremendous amount of tailgating, so I'd be really intrigued to see what the footprint is to have a gross amount of people there. If anybody saw what it was like in Pittsburgh last week, where they had 325,000 people there on the opening night of the draft. This doesn't necessarily lend itself to have that many people congregating in this area. So unless they're inside, I mean, you have those windows you can open up, maybe, but I don't think that's the one fallback, considering we could have weather like we have today where it's beautiful out. It's going to be a great night for a ball game at Target Field tonight, or you could have it where it's 35 degrees out and nobody's going to be there. That's the risk you take with coming in late April to the upper Midwest. But think about that potential, as I tweeted out yesterday, that, you know, we have the Vikings hosting the draft. You're going to have the Wild probably playing in the first round. The Wolves are certainly not going anywhere. They're playing. And the Twins relevant? Question mark? That would be something else to see. Now, you saw the map that Eric brought up there. I don't know where you're putting all these people unless you're doing it inside. And I mean, that's the draft proper, I guess, can be held inside the stadium. And this will be all flushed out, I imagine, by even later this month. If they get that far that they sign off on this, the NFL's got to have some sort of framework from the Vikings and U.S. Bank Stadium of, hey, this is what it would conceptually look like when it comes here in a couple years' time. But certainly looks like for those that haven't gone, I will tell you, Eric could probably speak more to this than I, because I know he went last year to Green Bay. I've covered a couple of them now in Chicago and in Cleveland. It is a spectacle, but the two times I've gone, the weather stunk. There was rain in Cleveland, and it was bleeping cold in Chicago when we went. So that's, I mean, two cities there that deal with the kind of weather that we have up here. You want to add to this? We got to get to Cory here, so we want to do it quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you're going to go, you got to get there early and prepare to stand there for a very long time, because once you get in your spot where I was, there's no leaving because they just fill in right behind you. I mean, and it was rainy the second day. I went all 3 days, just to say I went all 3 days. The third day was probably the most family-friendly because it was wide open. Not a lot of people go there. But the first day, you got to get there at like 2, 3 o'clock just to get a decent spot, and you're stuck. So buy your Depends if you're going to go. I'm preparing you now.
That sounds very much like going to Times Square. I did that for New Year's Eve, and you didn't move for 5-6 hours, and then it come 12:05. That's why there's no wide shots of Times Square after the ball drops, because everybody's running for the bathroom. There you go. From inside, the man who was there last year. But the draft coming to U.S. Bank Stadium, sounds like in a couple years' time. All right, let's break. We come back. We'll chat some Twins. Cory Provus will join us as Minnesota won last night. It's been a up and down week for the Minnesota 9. He'll join us as we chat Twins and Jays and a bunch of other stuff. Back on Hot Mic after this.
Deep to left center field. Back it goes and gone. The 0-2 pitch. Hey, struck him out swinging at 101. Swinging a drive. Left field and deep. Back it goes and gone. And the Twins walk it off again.
All right, it is Friday at 9:35, which time we visit with the television voice of the Minnesota Twins. Cory Provus joins us after a Twins victory last night over Toronto at Target Field. Did you feel like left out of the party? It was going out across the street and over in St. Paul last night?
My vision was taking me out to right field a lot.
I bet.
The skyway that goes from, that would be from B to A, I guess, right? Or C to B, maybe. So we see that going right over the plaza and just the flow of traffic. Our game started at 6:40, so by 7:30, it seemed like a pretty consistent flow that was going into Target Center. But it was neat towards the end of our game, coincided with the third period of the Wild game, and these random roars that we'd hear from the crowd. I'd be like, okay, something good happened. It's reminiscent to what happens in September on Sundays when the Vikings are playing, that, we can see from our booth some of the suites, and they've got the Vikings game on. And so sure enough, you'll hear like a foul ball, and then all of a sudden this random eruption of noise and like, oh, okay, Jefferson scored. So yes, that was pretty cool. But what a night, man! What a night here in the Metro. Everything going the way it did was awesome.
Last night, Ryan Jeffers a big night. Byron Buxton a big night. And what is it about the Twins and Kevin Gausman? They own him. It's just unbelievable.
Everybody to my face and to others have said it's just a fluky thing.
Yeah.
I am waiting for the day to come when all these players retire and when Kevin Gausman is retired, that the secret comes out.
Yeah.
Because I have to think they do. The personnel changes, but for the most part, I mean, they still have Jeffers and Buxton, some of these guys, and Josh Bell had good numbers against Kevin Gausman, seeing him previously, so there's something to that. But, I mean, his velocity was still good. He was throwing 95, 96, and you may have seen more 90s and 91s, but that's what he's been doing this year. There was a great story from Chris Black, who helps produce the Blue Jays games on Sportsnet, that it's been kind of this odd graph of velocity ups and downs with Gausman. So that wasn't the issue. I just think they have a good read on him. And whatever it is, I think the secret eventually will come out. But it's going to take for all these guys to be out of the game.
Well, I can remember visiting with you the playoff series a few years ago when they were getting ready. I mean, that was a matchup the Twins hitters were drooling over, of getting a matchup with him.
Yeah, I mean, you thought that, but then there's also been starts where he goes 7 innings and strikes out 11 and gives up 2 runs. But then he has, you know, last night wasn't terrible. I mean, he worked into the 6th inning, gave up 4 runs, a couple of home runs, but what was down was the strikeouts. And here's a guy that was averaging 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, Dom. He only struck out 2. And that, to me, working the count, the foul balls, the Larnach at bats, the plate appearances, Austin Martin, even Cody Clemens had a few 3-2 counts. That matters. And Morning and I were talking about that last night, and there were some really positive signs here the first 5 weeks of the season offensively. And yes, they played more games in March than they normally do historically. So you can put an asterisk by a few things. I get it. But more walks than they've ever drawn to start a season. The hits are in the top, I think, 5 all time. The run scoring is up there as well. But Morning said that the one element that he hopes can and should maintain is the walk rate. Because that's philosophy. That's just about what they're talking about in their daily hitters meetings. Because, yes, there were so much lefties that the Twins have seen here that there were more platoon-oriented lineups than I think they envisioned. But the walk rate is what it is. And Morty's of the belief that can maintain as the season plays out.
All right, we've got a month into the season. We're going to look at the AL Central standings. Is it bad? Is it mediocre? How do you evaluate? We're a month in. We have enough data. Where are we at with the division in your mind?
It's kind of what I expected. I'm a little surprised with the Tigers, and they've been flirting with, I think they won yesterday, so they're either 500 or game up and down. They're right there. You know, I'm just a little surprised with the Tigers because a year ago this time, they got off to a great start.
Yes.
They really did. So I thought they would have a similar start because they haven't had that many injuries. I mean, every team has something here right now. I thought Kansas City would be better. I thought the Royals would play better than they have. I haven't looked at their schedule too much, and maybe they played, tougher teams so far, and the opposing team's winning percentage is a factor there. I'm not so much into that just yet. But I think there's more mediocrity, Dom, than I thought there would be. So, yeah, it's been a bit surprising. I'm a little perplexed with how the division has played out here. 30-plus games in.
So the bullpen, again, has been a roller coaster ride. Just what can Derek Shelton do? These are the pieces he has. I mean, it was going to be a mix and match kind of deal already. He said it wasn't going to be a prescribed closer. What are your thoughts on where they go with the bullpen after a month?
Well, here's what I'm thinking of doing is I wonder if, and there's so many questions, but we rarely get the answers to the questions we want because nobody wants to reveal too much about what they're working on. But I wonder if a guy or two might add a pitch or change a grip on a pitch. You're not going to see a guy, Eric Orsi's not going to go from throwing 92 to 99. That's just not going to happen. But I just wonder in some of these bullpen sessions, and I think it's easier to do for a bullpen guy than a starter, that if you try out a pitch, you modify your grip a little bit. because they're just not generating enough swing and miss. And what they're doing as the weather warms, I don't see that improving.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm curious about. And I might ask LaTroy Hawkins about that, and he may give me an off-the-record answer. But it's something that you can find out even on some of these public websites. With like Baseball Savant, they do track axis and then, some of the horizontal break and the vertical break of how pitchers are going. And if you're astute enough to really track them now to how they look, say, in mid-June, there may be something to study there. That's kind of it's been on my brain here a little bit the last few days, especially because I know Shelty's frustrated because he was hoping that some of these roles were going to happen internally, that guys were going to pitch themselves because of performance into consistent high leverage roles. Clearly not happening. But again, I think none of this is a big surprise. I think if you asked me in January what I liked about the team and what I was concerned about the team, I was going to say bullpen and defense.
Yeah.
And so far, for the most part, those two are playing out.
There's an email here to ask you, following up on that, is there anybody in the minors they can bring up that they really like, or is this who they have they got to roll with?
I mean, Travis Adams just was reinstated to St. Paul yesterday. So he's a guy that he throws hard.
Yeah.
That he was a guy that we saw, the second half of last year. I think Kendry Rojas is going to come back into play here at some point, but I still remember that he struggled last year after the trade adjusting to the Major League ball. And the Major League ball, they use it obviously in the big leagues, but also AAA. They don't use that same baseball in AA. So he struggled after the trade with the AAA ball. Then he was in camp for a little bit. Then he got hurt. So he had a hamstring injury, and that's why he was a bit delayed. I don't think he's thrown enough innings at this point. I think they're going to give him another, I would guess, barring injury here from somebody else here. But in terms of just, I don't think there's this immediate rush to get him back up, but I think he will be back up at some point. And I wonder, too, about David Festa. Does he come back into the mix here at some point?
Yeah.
Osseo, John Klein, he's a guy that certainly is intriguing. I think we're all waiting for Marco Raya to just go on a run here, because that's the name we keep hearing about. But every time you look at the numbers, the ERA is high, the walk rate is high, and he's now a full-time bullpen guy. He's on the 40-man roster. So I think that's the guy that, going into the year, I'm like, okay, at some point we may see him, but he's got to perform. He's got to produce in St. Paul before that happens.
Kendry Rojas got a spot we only saw him for a little bit last week.
Yeah, I think, he's the guy again. But I think barring injury, he's the guy that I think would come back up if they play a doubleheader. If they play a doubleheader, Dom, if they have that 27th man, that could be kind of the move, because I believe that doesn't impact options. If you come up, if you're that 27th man, I don't think that has any impact on that five-term option and all that stuff. I think that's not in play there. So he's certainly in play. But again, going back to what I said a moment ago about the ball, he's got to get acclimated more and more, get into a routine. I think a bit more before they bring him back up.
Describe what you saw here out of the last week in terms of just how odd it is. Again, they have one great game, and this is baseball where, hey, they come out, gangbusters one game, next game, and Seattle's in the same spot. Seattle and Toronto are two teams that played for the pennant last year, and both are underachieving so far. I know both are banged up, but is it hard to get a gauge against those teams because they're in the same boat that they're underachieving so far?
Well, Toronto is dealing with injuries galore.
Right.
Now, that being said, they saw Gausman last night, and they'll see Dylan Cease on Saturday. So they're seeing their top guy.
Yep.
They did not see either guy at Rogers Center 2 weeks ago. So they did kind of luck out in that regard, then in terms of who you're seeing. But, George Springer just came back yesterday.
Yeah.
Alejandro Kirk is out. Addison Barger is out. They're missing some big-time weapons here. But, again, I think every team is. With Seattle, they're dealing with some things as well on their roster, but who isn't at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, outside of a few teams here and there that are generally, they're going to be pretty healthy. But there's something to be said about the offseason and how short it is for those teams that go far and the impact that has. Now, I think every team would take on that challenge, be like, I'd love to keep playing in October and play in November, bring it every time. So I'm a little surprised with how those teams are playing, but Toronto especially, because it's more present in my mind, is that you just look at who's been out.
Yeah.
I think that certainly has had an impact.
Let's break. We come back more with Cory. We'll chat a little bit more on Cory Provus, who made his home debut and was really good again earlier this week. We're talking about pitching. The Twins may have found one in their rotation. We'll wrap up hour one of Hot Mike. More with Cory Provus right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Wrapping up our first hour, back with Cory Provus. Twins and Blue Jays coming up 7 o'clock tonight. Play game 2 of that 4-game set. I got a bunch of emails coming in here. Another one asked about what's going on with Matt Wallner. And again, the struggles continue for him at the plate. I guess I'll end it with there. What's up with Matt Wallner and why the struggles continue?
It's a stunning turn of events for a guy that I think did tweak his stance and his swing, not drastically, but enough that gave him, I think, a better idea and a better game plan going into the year. But at some point here, I think they're going to have to send him down. You know, I don't know when that happens, but they just can't. It's going to be curious to see about tonight if he's in the lineup tonight, because normally he does play against lefties. However, Trevor Larnach is, while he doesn't have historically the greatest numbers against left-handed pitching, he's not a liability right now in the outfield. He's not, and he's drawing more walks. I think he plays tonight. So, and that to me, it would be interesting to see, because Wallner does play against lefties, has played against lefties, but maybe not tonight. Martin's going to play, probably in right, and wouldn't shock me if we see Larnach in left. But I think at some point, the decision's going to be made, because it's just going to be better for him in the long run. With what's going on at the plate, the strikeout rate is way too high. It's not for a lack of effort. It's not that he's just showing up at the ballpark, putting on his jersey and going to play. He is working. I see him in that cage every day. He's trying his best to get out of it. But we've seen this spot before, where it's a struggle in April. He goes down, gets hot, and then he rejoins the team in June and July and then goes on a run. And it would shock me if we see that again.
167 and striking out 37% rate. That's going to get you sent down. No.
The only way you can maintain a daily presence is if you're hitting a bunch of home runs.
Right.
And you say, okay, that's a crazy strikeout rate. The batting average is low, but is there something else you're doing? And yes, he has this great arm. He made a nice running catch the other night as well in the Seattle series. But the counter has to be more power, and whether that's home runs, doubles, he's got that. That has to be the other side of it if he's going to strike out at that rate.
Does that mean Emmanuel Rodriguez be the guy next up if he goes down, if Wallner goes down?
I would think so. He's on the roster, and Alan Roden would have been on my radar too, but he's hurt right now. He's got a labrum injury, no surgery right now planned for Roden, and what's also on my radar here is about the lockout and how that could impact the 40-man guys.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the 40-man, because the minor leagues are going to play. Maybe we haven't talked about that yet. Remember, there's a union now for the minor leagues.
Yes.
And there is going to be minor league baseball next year. Their CBA does not coincide in terms of a timeline as the same as the big league CBA. So minor league baseball is going to be played. However, my understanding is, who's not going to be playing in those minor league games is guys on the 40-man roster. Emmanuel Rodriguez is on the 40-man roster. Walker Jenkins is not. So those are things that you're thinking long term here. That if this scenario, we don't want this to happen, but there are some financial implications, some service time implications, and all that is all in play if we get to that point. Again, I hope we don't.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think Emma would be the obvious decision if that comes to be. And I hope not. I want Matt to be a daily presence on this team. I want the Moose to do his thing and to hit bombs and to just be an anchor on this team. It just hasn't gone according to plan for him.
That's really interesting perspective there for us to keep an eye on as well. That I don't think many baseball fans are either aware of or need to pay attention more as that becomes more of a reality for next year. Second week in a row, I'm going to ask you about Cory Provus, who made his home debut earlier this week. What do we make of start number 2?
I like what he's doing. Yeah. I do. And if you just look at some of the advanced pitching folks that study this, the movement he's getting on his sliders, nasty. His curveball was better the other night. That's a new pitch. He's got plus stuff. Now, for him, we're talking about a guy that threw just over 80 innings last year, and that was a career high. You're pitching it every 5 days. This is going to be new for him. So I think whenever they get a chance to give him a day or even skip him, they will. Now, a decision is going to come up here at some point. Mick Abel is supposed to throw a bullpen here any day now, and I don't know if it happened the day game on Wednesday, but I think he was supposed to throw a pen either Wednesday or Thursday or maybe even today. So once he gets through that, then all of a sudden we start to get a timeline as to, okay, when could Abel possibly be back? Now, the baseball gods, Dom, as we've discussed in the past, they often have an odd way of working things out. So let's get to that and whose spot does he take? But, Prelup is here to stay for the time being, but I think they're really going to be careful with his innings, and I think they're going to be cautious with, how often he sees a lineup a third time, just so that we'd like to have this guy pitch every 5 or 6 days. So I don't expect him to go 95, 100 pitches, 7, 8 innings, unless he's incredibly efficient anytime soon.
So I have to ask, do you have your binoculars ready for next week in Washington? Because that's like the furthest up press box in the majors, is it not?
Yeah, it's up there. Pittsburgh is like that too. Even
Yes.
Texas. We know what I do for those games is I watch like I'm watching at home because we have a monitor in the booth.
Yeah.
And I just literally watch the game. It's like when I was a kid. I'm watching like the Bears game on TV and broadcasting. There's just no reason. So I go from monitor to field.
Yep.
So I can see where the pitch is. I have an idea where the ball is, and then you track it, a little bit of a beat, and then you find it. So it is what it is. It goes back to when Target Field was built in 2000, when it opened up in 2010. Some of the early renderings of the ballpark had the broadcast booths and even the media up a little bit higher. But Jerry Bell and Dave St. Peter, they were adamant that they wanted to give everybody a good view of the ballpark on this note, thinking that it was going to help sell not just for us but other teams that would come to town, help their fans want to come to the ballpark. And so for interleague play, when the Dodgers come in June, or when the Mets were here last year, whomever, the Cubs, when you hear the announcers say, this is such a great ballpark and this is so pretty, this is such a fun place to come, that helps sell the team to the viewers that, hey, the next time their team comes to Target Field, hey, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, can we go? Because I hear that's a really cool place to call a game. I think that was smart. I'm a little biased, but we just have this great vantage point to do our job every day.
We're TV guys, so I'm obligated to ask you about Sunday's game. Is a Peacock exclusive? Is that right for Sunday?
Correct. I am off on Sunday.
Okay.
Morning's going to call the game with Matt Vasgersian and Dexter Fowler. It's a national game. If you remember the Sunday Roku games we had in the past, Roku's gone, but this will be a Peacock game on Sunday. But, Morning will be part of it on Sunday, and I get a rare Sunday off with the family.
Nice. Awesome. Have a great call tonight, bud. Safe travels, and we'll talk next week from Cleveland, okay?
Sounds good, Tom. Thanks, buddy.
There he goes. Cory Provus joining us. Minnesota Twins in action tonight with Toronto. That Sunday game on Peacock will also start. It's 11:30 start because they're exclusive, I think, that 12:30 window. Trey Savage is pitching that game for Toronto, who was the stud of last year's postseason for the Blue Jays in their run to the World Series. So him against Joe Ryan, the starters. But, I know, but if you have Peacock, that's to be able to find the game Sunday for the Twins and Jays to wrap up for Minnesota goes to play the Nationals coming up next week. All right, we'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. You'll meet the newest Bison football committee who said no to Iowa State and no to Kansas State. Bryce Vigness joins us on the other side of the break when we come back.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Final hour of the week. Why not chat some football on the first day of May? I don't care. It's coming. We're less now than 4 months out from the first year of FBS football in Fargo, of North Dakota State's season opener, August the 29th. So countdown is officially on. We'll get the 100-day countdown coming up later this month. Earlier this week, the Bison added to its football class for 2027. They went back to a state that's been really kind to them, Nebraska, for their next commitment out of Papillion, which is a suburb of Omaha. Bryce Vigness announced earlier this week, offensive lineman, that he is committed to NDSU, had a bunch of offers, including Kansas State, including Iowa State, Pitt, Tulsa, you name it. I can keep going. But he was in Fargo last week and gave a phone call to the coach and said he's going to come and be a Bison. He joins us here this morning. Thanks for doing this, bud. Congratulations. We were just visiting off air a little bit about the last couple days. Tell me give me a synopsis of the last 48 hours after announcing your commitment.
It's been really cool to see all the people who are excited for me, all the people who have helped me get to where I am today and get to this point have just been really happy for me, and they've done so much for me too. So it's been really cool to see all that play out and finally make a commitment. So.
All right, you were up here last week. Give me what you took in and said, okay, I can see myself coming here.
Winning culture is evident right as you step into the building. Physicality, toughness, and really O-line development is the biggest factor. You could just see how those guys develop and why they end up being so good and why they win so many football games.
How much, Bryce, when the whole recruiting process started, did you know about NDSU, and just was there inherent knowledge, or did you find that out as this went along?
My dad and I have always been like big football guys, so we've known a lot of people in Nebraska know how good NDSU is, and really a lot of people nationally know like how much they win and how much they are going to continue to win when they go up to the FBS level. So we've always known about it, but I've obviously found out more about like the nitty-gritty stuff of what they really do to get there, and I just loved it.
Did you commit on site, or did you give the coaches a call?
I gave them a call. Me and my parents kind of talked it over for, I think, just a day or two after the visit, and we knew.
What was that phone call like to make, and what was the other end like when you told the staff?
It's an incredible feeling to finally commit after all the hard work I've put in, and Coach P was really excited. He said it made his night. It was a great phone call.
This has been going on for a while for you. Tell us, for people that don't know, how early did you get your first either direct message or phone call when the whole process started? How long ago did it start for you, Bryce?
Honestly, it's been going on since freshman year. We started really focusing on football recruiting. It's been a really long process. It's been I'm incredibly blessed for all the people that have been interested in me, and just every single phone call, everyone that's even shown some interest. It's really a blessing, but it can be a lot. So it does feel really good to commit, but yeah, it's been a great process.
Was it a practice, or was it one of those messages or phone calls where it clicked for you? Like, hey, somebody thinks I can play and play at a really high level of college football. Is there anything that sticks out when I mention that?
One of my first visits I went on, my first spring practice visit, I'd say actually getting on campus to a school on a visit is when you truly know that they think you could be something that it really means a lot coming from coaches at that level and knowing they believe in you. So.
What has this been like now to have it over and done with over the last couple of days?
Honestly, it makes me really happy. I was a little stressed out, to be honest. It's been nice to kind of see my phone calm down a little bit. Maybe a lot of congrats texts the first day, but now it's really calmed down, and it's just been nice. I really get to focus on training, getting better, training with my high school football team, and I want to have a great season with them, and then getting ready to eventually be a Bison. So,
Bryce, people will see Kansas State, Iowa State, and say, well, that's automatic. Why not go there? I'll ask you, what made NDSU stand out over those schools?
I think a lot of people today focus more on the name or maybe a big brand over really how they do things and what they do. And if you see NDSU's record over the last 10, maybe 15 years, it goes with anybody in the country, and that's going to continue at the FBS level. And the Mountain West is a great conference, and if you want to play O-line, I think NDSU is the place you want to go. How they run the offense, how they develop their offensive linemen, how many offensive linemen they put in the NFL, I just can't see another place where you'd want to be as an offensive lineman.
You're a monster of a man. Tell me, what position do you feel most comfortable at up front?
I'd say I feel most comfortable at center.
Okay.
But I've played all 5 positions in high school, and through youth, I've played every single position too. So honestly, wherever they need me, but I really like center.
6'3" center is a huge dude. Why did that take to you? Why is that one your most comfortable spot in your opinion?
A lot of coaches in the recruiting process have kind of talked to me about center just because centers are big guys, but they have to be athletic too. And
Absolutely.
that's honestly probably my best trait, my athleticism. I have the size too, but I'm pretty athletic for my size, I'd say. So I think center's kind of a perfect fit for me.
Did you have a gradual growth spurt, or one day just bam, you were there?
It was pretty gradual. I have 2 older brothers who are around my height too, and I just kind of kept shooting up and eventually got to this height. So I kind of knew it was coming, but yeah.
So for people that don't know, give us the lowdown of high school football where you're playing on a Friday night, because you guys are playing really good competition. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So my school plays in Class A. It's the highest class in Nebraska. And I'm sure you've heard about Millard South.
Yep.
They are honestly like they could compete with some really high level football like in Texas and stuff like that, and like West Side and Creighton Prep and even us, we're going to be really good next year. There's plenty of great football in Nebraska, and it's really high level competition.
So I mentioned this, and you said it as well. I was writing this down. Obviously, Cole Payton just got drafted as a West Side guy. Marty Brown is from Creighton Prep. Easton Stick was a Creighton Prep guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss Marquise Siegel's from Omaha. Just what is that like, knowing there's that many guys that have played in your hometown that have come north?
Yeah, it's really cool because all the people from Nebraska that have gone there have really enjoyed it and turned out great. It's really been a great decision for them, and I'm just hoping to be the next one. So,
how much of was that a deal for you at all, knowing that there were guys that have come from your hometown and had success up here?
yeah, like me and my parents were talking about that after the visit. Like I think we were on the way home from Fargo, and we see Cole Payton from West Side, just 20 minutes from my house, get drafted in the NFL, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, the line of guys, it's been a long one from coming out of Nebraska that have had success up here. All right, so we were talking off air about this. Now this is done. Does this change your whole summer of what you had in terms of camps and visits now that you've committed?
Yeah, originally when we first started talking about it, we thought I was going to wait through the whole official visit process and take official visits to multiple schools. But after I visited Fargo last weekend, I knew where I wanted to be, and now I'm just taking one official visit to the place that I'm going to call home. So it's going to be great.
So now what? You put your feet up all summer? What do you got planned?
I can really go to work with my team, go to work on my own, have some fun in the summer, enjoy my summer too, while also still getting better and training with my team. So it's going to be a great summer.
How big a deal was it, Bryce, to have it done before your senior year? Was that a goal, or is just, you know what, when I decide is when I decide?
Me and my parents just talked about when it really felt right. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to rush it. Like, if it did go through there, I guess I wouldn't have been mad, but I'm really happy that I found the right place and felt really good about it and could make the decision before summer.
I'm always interested to ask commits this that haven't come up here. Was there anything that surprised you about Fargo? Anything that stood out like, well, I didn't expect that when you guys were up here?
Honestly, it kind of reminds me of my hometown a little bit, just like it's like a suburb kind of. It's not like a huge town, but it's not small by any means. Like, that's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want to really go to a big city, but also didn't want to go to a small town where there's nothing to do. I'd say in Fargo, there's about like everything. It's not like you're missing anything there, but there's not like too many people all around and too much traffic.
The obvious question I have to ask to wrap is on the Mountain West. You mentioned it earlier. Well, how big a deal was that, if at all, in your decision?
I think it was a pretty big deal. I wanted to play at the highest level. And the Mountain West is a great conference, and I think NDSU, and now they can be in the playoffs in the coming years, and I think that's something that they're going to do, and that was really a big part of it.
Knowing is that something you were following, or you found out about once NDSU was recruiting you?
So NDSU was already recruiting me. I think it got announced like just a few days after they offered me. So like that was really cool to see. Like we had heard like the rumors about it a little bit, and it eventually became official, and then that kind of like bumped them up a little more after hearing all the great stuff about their program, but also hearing they're going to be an FBS team. So
I know you got to get back to school. Thanks so much for doing this, bud. Congratulations. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we can catch up before your senior year of football, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the time. There he goes, Bryce Vigness from Papillion La Vista out of Omaha as the newest member of the Bison football class for 2027. He is all of 6'3", and I think you saw in a few of those photos, he's all of 285, and as he mentioned, he's going to play center here. That's the spot that NDSU is looking at him at. I want to go again over the offers on this because it's important. Iowa State, Pitt, Northern Illinois, Tulsa, Kansas State, and then he had all of the Dakotas in on him as well. And he'll be coming as part of the 2027 class. The third separate offensive lineman that the Bison already have got, Andrew Matt out of Carrington. You met him. Jack Tabbert out of Pewaukee, Wisconsin. That's the Watts hometown. Also Tucker Thieneman, who's on the team. That's their hometown. The Bison got another offensive lineman out of there. And now this guy adding on. And again, just off the top of my head of thinking of Omaha and the Bison connection there. And this is just, again, off the top of my head. So I'm going to insult somebody. I'm going to forget. But Christian Dudzik's an Omaha kid. Obviously, Easton Stick is an Omaha kid. R.J. Erzendowski, Omaha. Jalen Allison from Omaha. Marty Brown, Omaha. Marquise Siegel, Omaha. Elijah Wayne is from Omaha, who's on the current team. When they've gone to Nebraska, and specifically that city, and that's the Lincoln guys are going to get mad at me, but they've been pretty darn good as well. But specifically when they've gone to Omaha, it's worked out. Those guys all are either all conference, had some sort of major individual award. Easton Stick's the all-time winningest quarterback in the history of the division, right? R.J. Erzendowski, one of the all-time great Bison wide receivers. You're going to say whatever you want about Siegel and Marty. Siegel was here for 3 years, was all freshman, all newcomer team. Marty won the Jerry Rice Award here, right? Elijah Wayne's already on the all newcomer team a season ago. Dudzik's an all-timer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer eventually. I'm not saying for this kid, he hasn't played a down of collegiate football yet, but the pedigree is there that when NDSU has gone into that particular city and to get a player, typically they've been pretty good. Specifically offensive line, what he said about why he chose NDSU over Iowa State, I'm sure the Bison coaching staff will clip that and use that as a recruiting billboard because that was prime of what he said there of why he chose NDSU over the two Big 12 offers that he had. We'll break. We come back. I wanted to get into this. The 5 for 5 thing is making some momentum. And it's got some actual teeth to it. We'll chat about that. Much more on a celebratory Friday. Party still going on all over the upper Midwest after the Wild and Wolves won last night. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody. I'm just scrolling through the different dunking of Wolves fans that are doing on Denver this morning, which is there's no shortage of them happening, including one that I never thought of, but maybe is prisoner of the moment, maybe not, saying we need to start considering Jaden McDaniels for the 2028 Olympic team. Now, there's something I didn't think would come about, but that's a distinct possibility. I mean, he's averaged 20 points per game in the 20 games that Ant has been out this year while playing elite defense. That's the best player on the team, if you can do that. Couple things I want to get in here before we bring Chris Murray on from Nevada Sportsnet, chat some Mountain West football. Eric saw this first. I just saw it as well during an earlier break. If you thought Summit League, you were done with Brooklyn Meyer, I'm here to tell you she's back, but not in basketball. Meyer announced earlier today she's going to play volleyball for the Jacks this upcoming fall. Has another year of eligibility. Question mark, I guess. That leads into our next discussion. But Meyer, the Summit League Player of the Year a couple years ago, all-time great for SDSU, is going to play volleyball this upcoming year for the Jacks. By the way, Dan Georgalis, who's the great volleyball coach at SDSU, I saw him tweet out yesterday, like, we got better today, typically a recruit deal, and I'm not a great SDSU volleyball mind, but I saw it, I'm like, all right, why would the algorithm show me that? And this is why, is that she's going to play volleyball this year. She was a multi-sport athlete in Larchwood, Iowa, spent 3 seasons on the varsity volleyball team there. She's exhausted her collegiate basketball eligibility, but is permitted by the NCAA to play a 5th season in a different sport. That's the Abby Ducher rule for those that are familiar with that. Abby played 4 years. She's finishing her 4th year of collegiate softball at Alabama, but you're allowed to play a 5th year. That's why she's going to play basketball at UND next year. So that's intriguing to see Miss Meyer back on the floor, this time at First Bank and Trust Arena, playing some volleyball. Now, speaking of the eligibility and the 5th year deal, this is happening. We've talked about it quite a bit for the last couple weeks, but this freight train of the 5-for-5 eligibility is coming. Now, the NCAA sent out a memo yesterday that different college reporters got their hands on, and we got a look at it here as well, of what this is going to entail. And there's a lot of words here, right? For you guys watching on television, I'm going to try and surmise it the best I can. Student athletes with eligibility remaining, mean time left in their period of eligibility and seasons of competition remaining, would mean the current rules exist. So let's just take, for example, Nathan Hayes. Nathan Hayes is a senior to be. He redshirted in 2022, right? Then he played in, I think he got in a little bit in 23, certainly played as the backup in 24. We know how much he played last year. This is his 4th season. But they are not amending the rules for the class of 22, which stinks for the high school graduating class of 2022. You already had to deal with the COVID guys who didn't leave, right? Now you don't get this either, which, granted, this isn't hard and fast. I imagine there might be some massaging of this. That's why I was under the impression for the guys that redshirted that you didn't get that 5th year to play, that should be granted to those guys. Evident under this, it's not. Now, here's the big part, is that second line. Student athletes who exhausted eligibility in 25-26, meaning no time left in their period of eligibility and no seasons of competition remaining, they're done. It's not going to be grandfathered in. So for all those guys that went in the portal in basketball, I'm looking at you, Tony Osborne. I'm looking at you, Lance Waddles, a handful of other guys in the Summit League that say, hey, well, we might get another year. It's over. Also, student athletes who use final season of eligibility during 25-26 but have time remaining in their period of eligibility, current rules, no longer eligible. So that's the big part. As far as the incoming seniors that are graduating in the next month or so, and then will be on campus within 6 weeks, 7 weeks, that will fully start the age-based model, which means you start enrolling your freshman year upon high school graduation or when you turn 19, whichever's sooner. Like for me, it was high school graduation. I didn't turn 19 till March of my freshman year of college. And then you get 5 years. So if you thought this was a pie-in-the-sky thing and this was years and years away, I'm here to tell you that that's why I moderately disputed what Kolpak was talking about when he reported. I'm like, I don't think so. I think this is going to happen now. Like, they're going to try and put this up as bulletproof as they can to lawsuits. And granted, there's going to be some that will come their way. But this is going to happen sooner than later. Ross Dellinger reported this first from Yahoo Sports. Said the NCAA distributed a chart to member schools, that's what you're looking at, outlining the implementation scenarios of the 5-year age-based eligibility concept. It's clear the NCAA is expecting to adopt the concept for 2026-27, meaning next fall. Important final waivers under current rules must be submitted by July 31. Says also for prospects who graduated before the spring of 2026 and compete in sports with delayed enrollment, mainly hockey, the NCAA's Eligibility Center will apply whatever rule, the old one or the new 5-year rule, that grants those athletes the most eligibility. So that was the big one in the hockey world because those guys don't graduate high school. They go either prep school, then go into the USHL. Like, when does that timeline start? It will start delayed on that whenever they actually begin their collegiate run there. We'll get Schloss on to explain that a little bit more on the hockey side of that because it's a little more gray area than it is for the other sports. You got something to add here before we go to break? What do you got?
Yeah, just it's probably in there, and I just don't understand it because I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff.
You're not alone on that.
What are they gonna do with like the JUCO kids, like the kids that go to JUCO, and then like they delay their NCAA eligibility because the JUCO isn't a part of NCAA?
Yeah, I think that's what the Diego Pavia rule was, that he sued because he thought his JUCO time didn't count against his NCAA time, and they obviously won that, and he got his whatever it was 6th or 7th year of eligibility, so he could play quarterback at Vandy last year. From how I understand it, this is all wrapped under one. Like, that is all going to be considered now. That's, again, probably why it'll be challenged in court. But from how I understand it, for junior colleges, like, the eligibility deal is going to be a universal deal, which is, again, I imagine that's why they're trying to roll this. I mean, here we are. It's May 1. They want this ready to go August 1 because college football coaches got to know who's going to be on my team. Like, are these guys back then? Because that's the great thing. We're asking Grant Olson about that when he's here Wednesday, and like he didn't want to deal with it, and I don't blame him because there's a lot more questions than answers on it right now. So that's the best I answer on it, though.
Could they wrap JUCO like USHL, like the hockey juniors?
In terms of delay their enrollment,
yeah,
you mean?
Delay their enrollment
Potentially,
stuff?
But I think if you want a guy in football, you don't want to wait, or basketball, right? You're going to want him on the team right away. Like SDSU just got the best player out of the NAIA. Like, what is their eligibility, right? Because that's not junior college. That's not NCAA. How many years does he have? That's every question begets another one. That's the thing. Hopefully we have some more clarification as the spring rolls on. All right, we're overdue for a break. Let's get caught up here. We come back. We'll Meet the Mountain West segment continues. Last week we did New Mexico. Today we'll do Nevada. Chris Murray will join us on the Wolfpack. Jeff Choate, how the Bison fit into the Mountain West. That's coming up when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Final segment of the week as we get set for a busy sports weekend. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. We continue our series we started last week on Meeting the Mountain West. Last week, we introduced you to New Mexico. Today, it's Nevada. The Wolfpack are looking for bigger and better things in 2026. Chris Murray covers everything Nevada you need to know for the Nevada Sports Net. It's been covering them for a long, long time, and he gets up early with us today. I'm not going to hold against him. Apparently, he's a Buffalo Bills fan. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Jets fan, so you can hold that against me since they never win. But we'll wait and swap stories on that. But first, thanks for doing this. Second, I want your overview here. We're 3 months after the announcement that came that North Dakota State was going to be part of this. Give me your perspective on the Mountain West going. They had already added UTEP and Northern Illinois. When you heard NDSU was coming in, what was your reaction?
I guess not surprised because I think it was a very obvious fit. I think the concern for the Mountain West when it lost those 5 schools to the Pac-12 is it needed certainty in numbers. It needed to say, well, we're going to add this FBS school and the SEC and the Big Ten are not going to shut us down. If you go and you try and get an FCS school and they try and close that pipeline before the school actually gets into your conference, and then you don't have the 8 mandatory FBS schools, well, now you're in trouble. So I think if you had a depth chart of the most attractive football programs the Mountain West could have added, post losing those 5 schools to the Pac-12, North Dakota State was right at the top. It just was, would it make sense and would it be allowed? So I think it initially went for a little bit of certainty, getting Northern Illinois, getting UTEP, adding Hawaii as a full member. And then it went for, maybe the piece that it actually wanted in North Dakota State. So I think it's a great addition for the conference. I think it's going to be an intriguing national storyline as well, which will add even more eyeballs to Mountain West football this season.
For your viewers, listeners, readers, what have you heard back reaction-wise about the Bison coming in?
I mean, Jeff Cho, we've asked him quite a bit. He lost to them a couple times in the playoff. Yeah, Montana State head coach. He's now entering his 3rd year at Nevada. So, he was very bullish on the ad. I mean, he did have some concerns about adding the scholarship numbers and will it financially make sense. Obviously, North Dakota State came up with the money, with the entry fee, with all of the added expenses that it takes to get up to the FBS. But Jeff Choate has spoken very well, about the Bison. There's been a number of players from the FCS level that Nevada's added via the transfer portal. We've asked them as well. And, they're very high on the addition as well. So I think it makes a ton of sense. I think they're going to step into this conference to be contenders from day one. And when you look at moving forward, if you're the Mountain West, your chief objective is to be better now than the Pac-12. So why not add programs that are going to challenge at the top of your conference immediately? And that's, I think, what North Dakota State's going to do.
Give us you've covered this league for a long time. I think for the Bison staff that I've talked, and we had their defensive coordinator here the other day, that he said he wasn't necessarily worried so much about the speed, is being good up front, that they think the Bison have a distinct advantage on the offensive and defensive lines. Can you talk about that, of what your experience is and seeing what the lines of scrimmage play is like with the teams now left in the Mountain West?
Well, I think you just look at the history of the Mountain West teams that run the ball win the championship. Yeah. Nevada had some really good teams under Jay Norvell in 2020, 2021, but it was an air raid scheme. They had Carson Strong, who was the back-to-back Mountain West Player of the Year. They had Romeo Doubs, who just signed a huge contract with the Patriots, has been a very successful NFL wide receiver. They had Cole Turner, another NFL wide receiver. They had Elijah Cooks, another NFL wide receiver. They could really throw the ball, but they could never win the Mountain West Championship because they couldn't run the ball. They were not strong enough in the trenches. I talk with Chris Alt, the former Nevada head coach in the College Football Hall of Fame, all the time, and he always tells you, if you run an air raid, you're not winning a championship. So yes, the game is won in the trenches still. Historically in the Mountain West, it's been won in the trenches. You look at San Diego State, you look at Boise State, you look at Fresno State. Those are the teams that have dominated this league, and they've done it by running the ball. Not to say they haven't had good quarterbacks or good wide receivers, but that is the formula to winning championships in the Mountain West. It obviously has been a big strength in North Dakota State. Will it continue to be so as you jump up to the FBS? Certainly a storyline to watch.
You've already put out kind of a preseason look ahead. What's your feeling on the Bison did not get any favors with the schedule, Chris. They got to go to New Mexico. They got to go to Air Force, Hawaii, and Vegas. I don't know if that was the league was saying, hey, welcome to FBS football. But what do you gather of where they could place themselves in the new Mountain West?
So, yeah, I did an all Mountain West first and second preseason team, and I had North Dakota State with the second most honorees with 7, only New Mexico had more with 8. I also did a projected post-spring camp power rankings and record for this season. I do have North Dakota State third behind New Mexico and UNLV because of that schedule.
Yeah.
Literally the 4 hardest teams in the conference, at least projected, that are not North Dakota State, the Bison have to go on the road to play. It's not easy winning in Hawaii. That has been difficult for everybody in the league for a long, long time. New Mexico's home field advantage really ticked up last year. They had the largest percentage increase in home attendance in the entire FBS. UNLV has become a program that has won 30 games over the last 3 years. Very, very good at home as well. And then the academy is not an easy place to play. You're above 6,000 feet of elevation. It's usually very cold. They're going to try and run the ball and beat you up. So those are 4 really hard road games. If you go 2-2 in those road games, you're probably pretty happy. But if you go 2-2 in those road games, it might not be enough to win a Mountain West championship or get into a conference championship game if the Bison are approved to be able to do that in year 1. So I think from a talent perspective, from a coaching perspective, they're going to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West. But the schedule does give me a little bit of hesitancy to say that they're going to have the best record.
Chris, for Bison fans are already just drooling over the places to go. You're in Reno. The Bison aren't going to Nevada this year. Nevada's coming here, but just football. I'm more focused on the football than the destinations right now. For fans who are going to go, describe what the environment is at a stadium in Nevada or the other places around the Mountain West.
Not so great at Nevada of late.
Yeah.
This has been a little bit of an issue. I mean, this has been a really proud program. We talked about the Coach Alt days.
Yeah.
One of the best in Division I AA. They stepped into the FBS in 1992, became the first team to ever win a conference championship in their first year in the FBS. And then they went on a run of 14 bowls in 17 seasons, nationally ranked in the top 15 in 2010. But things have just fallen apart the last 4 years. This is a program that has 10 wins against 39 losses in the last 4 years. They've not been able to make that adjustment to NIL, to transfer portal, to the kind of investment required to win at the FBS level in modern college football. Now they are making those changes. They did a much better job in retaining its top talent this offseason. They just hit the halfway mark in a new $28 million indoor field house. In terms of actually the game day experience, though, yeah, it's been about 10,000 fans, which is not what you're looking for if you're an FBS school. I think UNLV going to Allegiant Stadium, that's a really cool experience. If you've never been down to the Strip, that's a once in a lifetime kind of thing. We're actually taking our kids there for the first time in Memorial Day, just so they can experience what that looks like. Albuquerque's a pretty cool city, so going to New Mexico, you can never fault the trip to Hawaii. I would say Oahu's probably not my favorite island. I'm more of a Maui guy, and I like the Big Island, but there's certainly some really cool destinations for Bison fans if they're going to follow the team this year to come out and hit. I think Reno is a hidden gem of a city. Lake Tahoe is one of the most beautiful places in the world. That's 45 minutes away. So I would say if you are ever making a trip to Northern Nevada, you have to hit Tahoe. Reno downtown, maybe not quite so good. And hopefully by the time the Bison do come play here at Nevada, that the team's in a little bit better place and the stadium's a little bit.
Is this a make or break year for Choate in your mind, considering what's happened the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it went 2-10, 2-10 the 2 years before him. He said he was going to launch it. There's not going to be a rebuild in year one. Went 3-10, lost a lot of really close games with a fairly talented team he was able to put together. Last year, the team was nowhere near as talented, lost a ton of players to the transfer portal, and then 3-9 again. So you come into this season at 6-19. He does still have a $2 million buyout after this year, and Nevada's not the kind of school that pays that kind of money to get rid of a coach. But there has to be a better product on the field, and there has to be more revenue coming from that program, which lost almost $4 million last year. Jeff Choate did inherit a very difficult situation. So I think there was a thought that it'd be a quicker turnaround. I think if it's a 2 or 3 win season this year, there are going to be that dialogue. There is going to have to be that big decision on whether a change has to be made. I think the roster, specifically the offensive line, is in a much better place to at least get to a bowl. Now, the big question is, can you throw the ball? Nevada has more interceptions and passing touchdowns combined over the last 4 years. And last year, I think it was like 10 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. They did bring in a transfer from UCLA and Luke Duncan. Carter Jones played a lot as a true freshman. He's back. Wide receiver core is better. New offensive coordinator, Brett Bartolone. He came from Colorado, was the OC at Jackson State under Deion Sanders. Really helped Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter. If that pass game isn't better, they're still going to struggle. And there are some legitimate major questions about that pass game. But the quarterback should have time given what I think is going to be a top 3 offensive line in the Nevada.
Chris, I really appreciate you doing this. One last thing. I'm always obsessed with scheduling. I'm a TV guy, as you are. I was telling you this in the break. Bison fans have been used to forever. Hey, we know the game's going to be Saturday at 2:30, and it's going to be here. For fans, can you describe how this works every week? I know the first 3 games they're going to announce at the end of May, but then after that, how does this usually work when they find out when and where they're playing?
Yeah, they'll give out the full TV schedule usually at the end of May. So whenever games are selected for national TV will be announced, but you generally don't have times associated with those games.
Right.
So the window is 13 days. So essentially 2 Mondays before kickoff, the time has to be set. So you'll know the TV partners. You'll know which games fell through, not on national television. At that point, then it goes to the 4th tier right holders, which is the school, and they can set their own time. But most of the North Dakota State's games, I think, are going to be picked up by national TV. I think 1 or 2 may be protected to try and squeeze some money out of that new pay app, the Mountain West app. But yeah, you'll probably have, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 national TV games scheduled, maybe a couple of times on those. But they can always go and change them to a Friday later on in the year, too.
Right.
So more uncertainty. You definitely don't have, you can't mark down the calendar in ink. It's more in pencil. That is life in the FBS. So welcome to the FBS, where you don't get to dictate when or where your games or what time they're playing.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned when they made this move in February. I said that's one of the things that comes with it. This was great, but I want to do this again because you're leader in the Mountain West in coverage. Thanks so much for giving us a little overview. Be well, and we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Go Bills.
I appreciate that. Chris Murray joining us from Nevada Sports Net, giving us the lowdown on the Wolfpack with Nevada and old friend Jeff Choate. Got some work to do there. The Bison will host the Wolfpack. That comes in the middle of October. Just that league, look at it again from the teams that are, again, you have to remember Boise State gone, Fresno gone, San Diego State gone, Colorado State gone, Utah State gone, right? And the Bison going to slide in here, and Chris is bullish on him, has him finishing third in his preseason poll that he's done here out of spring football. But you look at it with Air Force, was not great last year. They won 4 games, right? Nevada, not good. Wyoming, not good. San Jose State, not good. One of those teams maybe bubble up and be better. Maybe Nevada's one of them in 2026. Can't wait. As the countdown rolls on to get ready for a new year of Bison football. All right, we'll take our final break. We come back. We'll put a bow on things, get you ready for a sports weekend that involves the Wild and the Wolves are still playing. It's Kentucky Derby weekend as well. Hot Mike wraps right after this. All right, wrapping things up for the week. Fun shows this week. If you missed any of them, you go back and podcast them all. Our conversation yesterday with Jory Collins. We had Grant Olson here earlier this week. I really encourage everybody, our conversation we had with Chris Meyer yesterday and the benefit for his son taking place Sunday night down at on the south side of town right by Shanley. If you can, willing, able, certainly to help out the Meyer family. They've been through hell and then some over the last calendar year almost since Bo's accident. So you can go back and watch or listen to that. That was a pretty emotional segment we had on the show yesterday. So all of those are available, inforum.com and WDAY Plus. I had a couple emails that we didn't get to yesterday, but now we can circle back after what Chris's segment that we had on the show today to highlight on, specifically because we talked television yesterday. Dom, there are those saying this is a far worse TV deal than the FCS Bison packages. My response is the games are scattered among more broadcasters because it's a product more people want to see, has more value, and therefore has the ability to be divided among more broadcast entities. That is the email of the day. That's exactly right. And to Chris's point, just saying he thinks the Bison are going to get picked up more national games than not, I totally agree with him on that too. Dom, will WDAY be doing the non-conference games? Let's talk about football. We don't know. I think there's a hope that maybe we can get 1, maybe 2. As you heard, not every game gets picked up, and then it goes to the school to decide where those go. So we're hopeful that that can come about. There was another question I got about audio through Facebook. That is a radio question. I would tell you how you have gotten used to watching and streaming the games, however you've done it over the last 5 to 10 years, forget it. Right? That's the easiest way I can tell you about Bison football going forward. How you've done it in the past is going to be different. Now, unless you listen on the radio, that will be the same. But if you are used to watching the games on television or streaming the games on computer and phone or tablet, prepare for it to be wildly different. That's the easiest way I can say it going forward. I'm going to hammer this now between now and August 29th when the season gets going. One other interesting nugget. We were just talking about Russell Wilson the other day. Andrew Marchand, the great TV reporter, is sourcing that Wilson is near a spot to join the NFL Today and CBS. How do we feel about Russ being on TV? I don't know about that. But I'm trying to think what they've done. Because Matt Ryan is gone. Matt Ryan was on the show but left because now he took over the Falcons job. So he'll be joining there with Nate Burleson and Coach Cower. I don't watch CBS's. I don't watch any pregame, honestly. But he'll be with JB, Russell Wilson, Bill Cower, and Nate Burleson potentially for 2026. We'll see. Let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. All right. right, we got a lot to get to. Don't forget, we got softball and baseball for you here today on WDAY Extra. The Jacks and the Bison set to play. Softball, if they have any duplication of yesterday, look out. 3 o'clock, Sam will have the call of that. And then baseball tonight at 6:30 from Newman Outdoor Field. Myself and Mike Scogan will be there to call the Jacks and the Bison tonight. Also going on, no shortage of things happening. Twins are getting going at 7 against the Blue Jays on Twins TV. Tom Hoagie had a good round at the Cadillac Championship in Miami. That gets going at 2 o'clock on the Golf Channel. And we got Game 6 of the Lakers and the Rockets tonight. That's on Amazon Prime. Lakers win. They move on. Also this weekend, it's Kentucky Derby weekend. It says 5 o'clock. The race is pretty much close to 6 tomorrow on NBC. That leads into the 76ers and the Celtics. Tomorrow night, Game 7 on NBC. And the final round of golf comes up 2 o'clock Sunday on CBS. We don't know if there's any other Game 7s in basketball or hockey because that depends on what happens tonight in those games. So should be a great sports weekend. We'll be back to recap it all on Monday. Thanks to our great guests today, to Bryce Vigness, to Chris Murray, and Cory Provus. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the fantastic weather. We'll see you back here on Monday.